My goal was to learn tips and tricks, Adam. I wanted to learn how to get the super gun of interviewing so that I could beat all the levels. What I learned was that you cannot be anything other than yourself. And so the question is, how do you sincerely, open-heartedly, without defense, and with purpose, be yourself? In a context where your every inclination is to control and defend and scheme and perform.
So yesterday was pretty much a day without a story. Today is like the day without a story. Now, I know what you're going to say. Everything has a story, right? Beginning, a middle, and an end, but not really, not yesterday, because yesterday was just kind of a relaxing, fun day, but I spent most of the day in the car. Sometimes it's hard to have a really cool story when you spend that much time behind the wheel and driving. Although flying the drone was a lot of fun. But I did have something that crossed my path yesterday that made me think.
My goal was to learn tips and tricks, Adam. I wanted to learn how to get the super gun of interviewing so that I could beat all the levels. What I learned was that you cannot be anything other than yourself.
I listened to Adam Ragusia's podcast, The Pub, from Current, and his guest that I was listening to yesterday was Jesse Thorne, the host of Bullseye. A side note, I had never heard of Jesse Thorne before. I'd never heard of Bullseye until listening to Adam's podcast with him. And I got to tell you, I checked it out. I subscribed because his interviews with famous people and interesting people are awesome. So anyway, Jesse Thorne interviewed the best interviewers about interviewing for his show. Did you hear what he said?
With purpose, be yourself. In a context where your every inclination is to control and defend and scheme and perform.
So when I heard that, I automatically thought of this word, authentic. So authenticity, a person's ability to be themselves, just kind of be who they are in any scenario, that's authenticity. And really, that's at the heart of everything. When I'm interviewing somebody on the radio, am I asking questions that I genuinely want to know the answer? That's what I'm interested in. Or am I just asking questions that I think I'm supposed to ask? When I turn that camera on and talk to you there or speak on a microphone for radio, are you getting the real Matt? And so I thought about that all day as I drove. Authenticity. And then that very afternoon on the radio show, this popped up.
It'd be fun if there's Bigfoot. I hope there's Bigfoot. But my guess is there is not. Aliens, I suspect there is, and I don't know that they're little green men, and I don't know that they're specifically in our galaxy. I mean, because, first of all, like something about lightning strikes mud and then it sparks a beetle or, and all that other business, I don't happen to believe that. I take more the biblical approach on this whole thing, which... to me, why only this planet? Why only us? I mean, if it can happen here, why wouldn't God build other Earths and other places? Why only this one? Well, they say, the notion of God is far-fetched. Oh, really? Striking mud and then life, sparking out of there and then it going like that? Well, that's just such an obvious, easy path to follow. Regardless of which approach you take, well, if it happened in one place, why wouldn't it happen somewhere else? Or why couldn't it happen somewhere else? Or why wouldn't it be likely to happen somewhere else?
Mike Leach, the head coach of a Power 5, major conference, Pac-12 football team during game week in a press conference is talking about Bigfoot, aliens, creation, and evolution. Mike Leach walks to the beat of his own drum. Everybody kind of knows that. And that's great. And there's one thing that no one can ever accuse Mike Leach of not doing, and that's they can't accuse him of not being authentically him, an authentic guy. Whether it's, pregame interviews or halftime or postgame or press conferences during the week, he's just kind of himself all the time and has no issues with that whatsoever. He never draws this shade or filter or puts up a barrier or acts. He just kind of is like, here's me, you can take it or leave it. And I think that's what makes him so interesting. So what does all that mean? It means he is the only football coach in America whose bland, normally, game week press conference video is going viral all over the country. The day after it happened, on every TV and radio station in the country, it seems like. He's literally the only one. And I have a theory as to why. It's because authenticity is so rare. So you think about the world in 2017. Everybody's a publisher, right? Everybody's got a phone, a camera like this, something. Everybody's uploading to YouTube or to Facebook or Twitter or something. Everybody's putting out content, right? All ages. There's more content now than there has ever been at any point in time in the world. And yet in this example, Mike Leach is the only football coach who cuts through all that noise out there and lands on the plate and the radar of more people. All because he's 100% authentic in a moment in a press conference talking about Bigfoot and aliens in a legit conversation. So here's the takeaway. I'm listening to this interview, this guy who's really good, he's what he does, interviewing, but he's interviewing the world's best interviewers about interviewing. And the one upshot takeaway, the first prerequisite is you have to be yourself. In other words, you have to be authentic. And if you're not, you can't fool people. I can't fool you. You can't fool me. You have to give yourself permission to 100% of the time be you. I'm a huge sports fan, right? And over the last 5 to 10 years, I find myself watching less and less sports talk shows, listening to less of those, taking in less sports commentary. And even when watching games, I find myself muting the TV more often and just watching it silently. So the question is, why? They're not authentic. The same suits, the same ties, the same talking points, the same delivery. And a lot of times they're getting their opinions approved by a producer ahead of time, and it's typed out in a teleprompter for them. Just stop all that. John Madden, Dizzy Dean, John Gruden, Mike Tirico, Tony Kornheiser, Mike Francesa. One of my favorites on the SEC Network, Marcus Spears, Louis Riddick, talking NFL. You know why they are iconic? Authentic. The genuine article, every one of them. So many others out there. I'm going to leave you with this. There's an author named Janet Louise Stevenson who said this: authenticity requires vulnerability, transparency, and integrity. And one more, not sure who to credit, but I've heard this before also. Don't trade in your authenticity for approval. Being authentic works here and here. If you're not authentic to your audience, they're gone.